It's time for Justice for All, Behind the Badge video, streamed live from Team Toyota Route 1 in Langhorne with your host, Tom Mellon, featuring Bucks County District Attorney Matt Weintraub and Bucks County Sheriff Fred Herron. Here's your host from Team Toyota, Tom Mellon.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Team Toyota Showroom here on behalf of WBCB and our special show that we air each and every month. This month, we're doing Justice for All with Bucks County District Attorney Matt Weintraub. Matt, it's always great to see you, buddy.
It's my pleasure, Tom.
It's always a pleasure. Always has a smile on his face, but don't let that deter you because he's out there fighting crime each and every day or making sure that people are accountable for what they do. And, you know, let me begin by thanking our sponsor, Paul Muller, who each and every year, it's been 14 years, 12 of them, I've been here 14, Matt, and 12 of them, he's been a sponsor of these radio shows, all the different ones that
he's a great community partner.
What a great community partner. He really is. The program that we have here, the Heroes Program, for all of our police, our fire, our military, and let's not forget our medical. All heroes that protect and serve in the communities here in Bucks County and, you know, the surrounding counties as well, Matt. The program for all of you, all of our heroes, you can call 215-768-6505. Ask for me, Tom Mellon, and we have a special program, as you know, Matt, for all of our heroes and family members. As well. Happy holidays to everybody, right, Matt?
Happy holidays, yes.
Regardless of how you celebrate, whatever denomination is yours. Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Hanukkah, which I believe is this week, Matt. And obviously Santa Claus will be coming very, very soon.
Depending if you've been naughty or nice, I think.
That's true. You know, my grandkids, it's great. They're impressionable, 3, 5, and 7.
Oh, that's great.
It's great. And, we have the Grinch, and the Grinch moves around in the house. They can't touch the Grinch because if they do touch the Grinch, then he loses his powers.
Oh, no.
So we're always doing different things in the house with the Grinch, and it's just so great to see kids. Wouldn't it be nice if we could be that impressionable?
Yeah, the wonder in their eyes and in their minds still.
It's great.
Yeah.
But back to our show, which is very important. We love this show very much that Matt continues to do for us. But what's most important, ever since the day that he was sworn in office as the Bucks County District Attorney, from that day he has and continues to keep all of our residents safe in our neighborhoods, our schools, our businesses, recreation centers, parks, and every other area as safe as possible because of the direct results that he delivers with his incredible professional staff of attorneys in Bucks County. And he delivers to those who commit the crimes here the punishment that they deserve. And they'll be caught and prosecuted to the fullest extent, as you always do, Matt. Great job. And, I certainly want to support the police department that worked in tandem with you.
Every day.
They keep
whether you see them doing it or not.
That's true. Very clandestine out there with some of their investigations. So don't think you can be hiding behind a giant rock or something if they're committing a crime, because we'll sift you out, right?
Yes.
That's the important thing. We covered a lot last show.
Yeah, it was a great show.
Great show. We were covering certain cases that were prosecuted, some infamous ones, and talking about site arrest, how important it is for the public to continue to lend support if you feel that there's any type of criminal activities that are occurring. Don't just think that somebody will take care of it. The police are there. No, we need your support. We, meaning, the district attorney's office, the police department, we need your help too, because it's that, that relationship that everyone has, it's intertwined, that keeps us a very safe county up here in Bucks.
Yeah, to me, Tom, that's what makes this place a great community, a great place to live, is we have people that care about their community. They care about their neighbors. They care about their schools, their churches, their areas where they have recreational activities, and they look out for one another. And I think that's one of the reasons that Bucks County is so special, because people don't see something and say, that's not my problem. they see something, and while I don't encourage vigilantism, I don't want people to take the law into their own hands.
True.
They see something, they make that call. They send that in a tip. And you can do so anonymously. You can always contact us at bucksda.org and put in an anonymous tip if you think there's criminal activity afoot. But certainly if you think there's a criminal emergency, don't second guess yourself. Call 911. Let the pros be the judge of what level of emergency that you may be witnessing, if at all. And frankly, sometimes it's not even an emergency, but you're doing what's called building a book. You're making a book. If you see something that's repeated over and over again, it may look a little out of place but not criminal. But if it's repeated over and over again, it might be an indicator of criminal activity.
Smart. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I know there's not much to be said, but currently you're in a big investigation that's going on in a section up here in Bucks County where there was a homicide where someone was bludgeoned or butchered, and I know you don't have much to say about that right at the moment.
Well, so if I have you right, I think you're talking about a missing persons case.
Yes.
In Sellersville,
That's exactly
area.
Right. Sellersville.
And usually I'm not that coy. I usually don't beat around the bush. I try to be very direct, but I at this moment am not legally permitted to speak about this missing persons case at this moment. I know there's been a lot of news coverage about this case even recently as last week, and there are certain legal reasons why I can't speak on it today. But we do have an intention, and you're hearing it first on WBCB on the Justice for All show, that we will be doing a press conference tomorrow at 3 o'clock up at the Justice Center on the 4th floor. I would expect that it will be widely covered, but we live stream it on our Facebook, I believe. And I hope to be able to provide a lot of answers and some comfort to the public that we have been working very diligently on this case, and we'll be able to answer a lot of the burning questions. And to your point that you were making earlier, Tom, that was a case that came to our consciousness October the 10th-ish, and we've been working very diligently on it ever since, and even to the point where we had an earlier press conference to announce that there was a missing person, Beth Capaldi, who was missing from Sellersville, and the public's interest was off the charts, and they really dug into it. They showed that they cared for their neighbor. They had conducted searches for her. They went through various locations to conduct searches for her because they cared about their community member, and that really touched me. And I know for a fact that touched Ms. Capaldi's family because I've been in touch with them and I have spoken with them.
I'm certain. So you've heard it live here today on Justice for All that hopefully 3 p.m. tomorrow, Matt will have some more revealing information about this ongoing investigation that continues. And speaking of the investigations and cases and ones that you've prosecuted, why don't we jump right back into the DiNardo case, because that's how we want it to begin. And then if we have some time, we'll talk about the go back over this past year, all the accomplishments that you've covered and what you're proud of and how you see 2023. And we'll talk maybe perhaps a little bit about Jen Zorn.
Yeah, Jen Zorn. It's well, yes, we can do that in that order, Tom, and I'll count on you to direct me because as you know, when I am asked, and I often am, about the Cosmo DiNardo case and how sensational it was, it's really something that can be discussed for days.
Yes.
So I'll take your lead. You can tell me when we've had enough or we got to move on to another topic. But
Bree kicks me underneath the desk and she'll tell me how the time's coming along, right?
She's usually giving us the high sign. Yeah,
Exactly.
Keeps us on track. So I know that we did start this, but gosh, that was 2 months ago. So I'll begin at the beginning.
Yes.
And maybe try to run over some of that quickly to get to where we had left off. But I recall this was in July of 2017. and I had been appointed to district attorney, but I had not yet been elected. So I was running for election, and I just remember it was ungodly hot out. And it was during the weekend, so I think by this point it was Sunday in that July 4th week. And that was when I first became aware of this pending situation in which, as we then learned, 4 young men, I call them boys because really they were boys.
Very young.
18 or 19 years old, were missing. And I remember I was riding around the county doing some various alternating between performing some functions as the district attorney, where sometimes I have to make appearances similar to this.
Yes,
sometimes.
absolutely.
And alternating between that and even doing some politicking, knocking on doors, what have you, as you have to do when you run for election. And I was getting calls from my then first assistant. Now my first assistant is Jen Shorn. Hopefully we'll talk about it. It's a little teaser.
Yep, absolutely.
And I remember very profoundly, I'm riding around the county and I'm in the Middletown area. And I get the call that this investigation has been brewing maybe for a couple of days now. It was on the family's radar even before that, but had been brewing as a criminal investigation a couple days.
Sometime, yeah. And
the call goes something like this. My first assistant, he says to me, we're getting information that 4 separate boys are missing in and around Bucks County. And I said, well, there are 4 boys. Is there some connection? He said, we're trying to establish what their connection with each other is. And I immediately make very quick connections in my head. Sometimes they're not accurate, but
most of the time they are.
yeah, I'm blessed in that regard. But in this instance, I say to him, well, it's a hot summer day. It's a weekend. They're not working. They're all down the shore.
Right.
And that's logical. And he says to me, all their phones are turned off.
Ooh.
And I remember catching a chill because that is so not normal. And it was then, Tom, that I understood the potential magnitude of what we were dealing with. And it was a terrible feeling because, number one, the loss on that scale is extraordinary. And number two, you're literally starting from scratch. And now you have to try to figure out, how are 4 boys missing? Who are they? What is their background? What is their connection? And what happened to them?
Oh, my God.
And I just felt like a little bit overwhelmed. But I trust in my team, and we are very blessed here in Bucks County. We have fantastic law enforcement, and law enforcement was already working at a rapid rate on this case. And so what we ended up figuring out, we identified the 4 boys and got their pedigrees and started to almost like a lattice network, started to interlace their connections between them and each other. And as it turns out,
good start. Yeah.
2 of the boys had worked together and were last seen together. One of the boys, well, actually 3 out of the 4, but the 2 that worked together, one was just sort of along for the ride, which is shows you how senseless all this was.
Oh, my God.
But they all had one thing in common, and they all knew this one other young man, Carlos DiNardo. Can we stop there for a moment? Sure thing.
Justice for All will continue here with Matt Weintraub, our Bucks County District Attorney. We're going to take a quick station break for our sponsors. Paul Muller, who's the sponsor of our show, who's here with us today, as always. But don't go anywhere. We have some great details to share more with the DiNardo case as soon as we return. Don't go anywhere.
Hi, Paul Muller from Team Toyota. With the season finally changing, things in the car market are pretty much the same. You can wait for months to find a new car, or don't wait at all. With over 100 certified Toyotas in stock with low mileage and great warranties, you can drive one home today. Plus, get free maintenance and roadside assistance for 1 year. Or choose a budget-friendly used car that meets your financial and lifestyle needs. So start the season in your new used car at Team Toyota. Just visit teamtoyota.net.
Hard Rock Cafe in Center City at 12th and Market Streets has it all. Great food takes center stage with dine-in and pickup available. Their burgers are so famous, they have their own chauffeurs. So order delivery and catering too. So if you're celebrating or just getting the band together, Hard Rock Cafe's got your back. For more info, hit up hardrockcafe.com.
Head out to Dion Square, located at South Oxford Valley and South Olds Boulevard, with the following businesses ready to serve you: Pat Dion Beverages, CVS Pharmacy, Smile Culture Dental, Biomat, Wayner Nationwide Insurance, Liberty Auto Tags, Pennsylvania Fine Wine and Spirits, Lee's Hoagie House, AutoZone, and First National Bank and Trust of Newtown. Make Dion Square your one-stop shop for all your shopping needs at Fairless Hills.
Paul, thanks for stopping by, as you always do. How's the coffee today? Good?
It's free.
It's free.
It's for me.
Free, it's for me, right, exactly. Paul Muller, our sponsor here for Justice for All, Behind the Badge, Let's Go Places, Your Health with Tom Mellon, and it goes on and on and on. There's other surprises I have in 2023, as Matt will share as well, his surprises. Hopefully you will. But let's get right back to the DiNardo case and that link with the 4 missing young lads to the connection with DiNardo.
As you know, Tom, because you were a policeman for many years, police work is really just a lot of hard work.
Yes.
And sometimes you can have a brainstorm, or every once in a while you can get super lucky. But really, it's just you got to work hard. You got to work your leads. You got to develop leads. You got to follow them up. And we here in this case, certainly, but in almost every case, we have people that are willing to go that extra mile. And I will give credit because we are local here. It was a Middletown police officer, Megan Freer, who is now a detective there. But she was just a patrol officer in Middletown at the time. She had received the missing persons report for Dean Finicaro, one of the young men, and she got permission from her Chief Bartarilla, to follow it up, even though it was going to go outside her shift and it was going to go outside their jurisdiction. And that was, I will give credit to the Chief. He could have very easily said no.
Wow.
And say, go home, right. You're done your shift, come back in 16 hours.
Philly boy, by the way.
Philly
he was
boy,
in Philadelphia Police Department and up here now.
I think, was he a chief inspector?
Yeah, he was a chief up down there. Yeah.
And so he knew to trust her, and she was following, I think it was license plate readers. As you know, technology is really advanced, and sometimes when we're riding around, our license plates are captured, even though we don't know it. The image. And so a bulletin went out saying that Dean Finicaro or Cosmo DiNardo were driving certain vehicles, and were they read on any license plate readers? Sure enough, they were in Solebury.
Wow.
And not only that, but a couple of the other missing boys' license plates were read in Solebury as well. So we start to vector in on not only connecting the boys with Cosmo DiNardo, but in a certain location. And I remember receiving all these reports, and I'm getting very anxious. And I know that on Monday, as opposed to going to work, which is where I usually go to Doylestown, I'm going to report right to Solebury to try to get the lay of the land and understand, meet with my command team.
Of course.
And understand what needs to be done. How can I help manage it, so to speak, and what additional resources we need, and where are we in the investigation. So I do so, and it's up, if you know, and I can never pass this location without turning my head. It's all the way up 202. It's just past Peddler's Village, before New Hope, and you turn to the left. I know it's right where the guardrail starts. You turn to the left.
Oh, my goodness.
Long driveway. And it's like almost a Pavlovian response now. When I drive there, I always turn to the left. It's like, it's just a pull, a gravitational pull.
Deja vu. I mean, it comes right back again.
Yes. It like transports me. So I get to the, it's this farm, and that's even an understatement, Tom. That's what you can kind of see. Once you pull into the driveway, there's a farm, a field of cornfield on the right, and then you go up the driveway, which is probably a couple blocks long. And then there's a little compound, I'll call it, with a house and a barn, and then another little outbuilding. And that's where we set up.
Sure.
Because that was the literal and figurative end of the road. So we set up our command vehicle, which is pretty self-sustaining, and police were coming in, not by the dozens, Tom, by the hundreds.
Wow.
Because we became aware very quickly that someone had been murdered there.
Yes.
In this barn. It was very evident, and I don't want to get too graphic, but
very eerie.
Well, there was physical evidence, not of any body, but there was physical evidence, remains, fluids, if you will.
Yes, and you worry about so many officers that are up there maybe breaking a chain of evidence.
Certainly, certainly. So we had to really control that. And one of the things that, so we knew this was a crime scene. And now we have to put this together. Who is it? Is it one of the boys that's missing? Because it can be anything. You really don't know.
You don't.
And how to handle this. So pretty quickly, the families of the 4 boys start to converge on this area as well. I will never forget I'm advised by my then press advisor to have a press conference and start doing twice daily press conferences.
Wow.
And I'm thinking to myself, what the heck am I going to say?
Exactly.
Two times a day, and I don't even know how this is going to end.
True.
So I was really feeling that pressure, and I remember the first one, I just pull up in my old jalopy, my 2001 Mitsubishi Galant, and all the cameras immediately zoom on to me. We're in a parking lot of like a old car repair shop that's not even open for business, but wasn't open enough space for us. And while I'm speaking to the media, I see this older couple there, and it was the Patricks. I didn't know who they were.
Wow.
But it was the Patricks. It was Jimmy Patrick's grandparents who had adopted him. So the first thing that I recall after that was getting together with them and some of the other family members, and Dom Belize, Chief Belize, who was like my lucky charm, my right-hand man. He was the chief of Soulbury Police, and this is where all this was occurring. Found a nice quiet spot for us in another neighborhood just up the road, and we all transported just up the road there. And I remember being under this huge weeping willow, and being there with victim services, because they're integral to something like this.
Sure.
They're really the liaison. They're the comforters. They help us give information back and forth to the family. We're under this huge weeping willow, and I'm explaining to the families what we know, and more importantly, what we don't know.
Oh, we don't know
yet. And I will never forget, and it is blazing hot, and that's why we're under this tree. And it was Mrs. Patrick, Sharon Patrick, says at the end of my discussion with them, do you mind if we all hold hands and pray?
Yes.
And I was like, of course. So we all gather around in a circle, and we all prayed for those boys. And it was so profound, and I was already feeling extraordinary pressure, Tom.
Of course you were. And that energy itself was
and at this point, what it crystallized in my mind was that these people are counting on me and my team, vast as it was, to bring their boys back home. That's a lot of pressure,
I'll say.
And I also remember in speaking with the press, saying to them, because they were asking, is there hope? Are these boys dead or are they alive? And I said, and this is very important, and I say this almost routinely. I even remember saying it in the Beth Capaldi case a couple of months ago. We are hopeful. You have to hold on to hope.
Of course you do.
Until there is no room left for it. You have to. You have to give people hope.
Good answer.
Sadly, as it turns out, the rescue efforts turned into a recovery mission. Shortly after that, we then were starting to learn that the boys had been killed. But we didn't know that immediately, and so these poor families, the 4 families, they actually set up like a camp, a makeshift camp at the edge of that property, the DiNardo property. And then, of course, everybody was so gracious. The community, the outpouring of support, I've never seen anything like it. There were pallets of water that were shipped. People were sending food. They were sending blankets. You name it. It was overwhelming.
Heartwarming to see that.
It was. People really rallied and cared for these community members of ours. But what was happening was we were trying to work the investigation on the one side at the site. So we had these cadaver dogs come in, and one was from Philly and one was from the state police.
Okay.
And they were with their police handler partners. And these cadaver dogs, to this day, I don't know the science other than to tell you that a dog's nose is like 1,000 times sharper than a human's.
Isn't that the truth?
It's amazing.
God.
But I saw the proof. And a cadaver dog is trained to be able to smell evidence of a dead person in a location.
Wow.
So these cadaver dogs hit on these 5 separate, distinct areas in this compound location, the end of the road, as I've called it. So we start to dig painstakingly, because think about it, there may be evidence of human remains, evidence of a crime there. You can't just start
ruffling it up.
You can't.
No.
So painstakingly digging, and it goes on for days. Whew. And I remember, so I get involved Sunday, Monday, goes all day. We don't find anybody. And we are now on the 4th out of 5 sites. And we're digging deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And I remember that Tuesday morning, I'm suiting back up. I'm going back out to the site. I'm going to give these twice daily briefings and figure out what's going on. And so much is going on.
Sure it is. It was, yeah.
But I remember despairing. This was the low point in this investigation for me. And both of my kids were away because my wife and I were supposed to celebrate our 20th anniversary.
Yeah, you remember.
We were supposed to go away, of course.
Poignant moments, yeah.
And my wife, being a wonderful support and great sport, she understood we couldn't go. And she stayed with me the whole week. And that morning, I remember sitting by my fireplace before I ran out the door and really, really getting upset and crying and saying, I have to find these boys and I'm not finding them.
Sure.
I'm not finding them.
Sure.
And I really despaired. That was the low point, though, because it was that day in this 4th hole that as we dug deeper and deeper and deeper, that we finally saw a sign that somebody was buried down there.
Wow.
And then I knew we were going to locate some, if not all, of the boys.
Of the boys. That was the first indicator there. So
yes.
Despair, the despair, which is only human, left you, and you were back into a different mode of energy.
It was momentary, and it didn't deter me from the job, but it was a normal human emotion. But we persevered, and the team never stopped. It was one of it was the best team effort I have ever been a part of in my 30-year career.
That's just amazing. More of this. We're going to once again. You're listening to Justice for All with our Bucks County District Attorney Matt Weintraub of an extremely emotional and critical case that certainly did not come out as unfolded as it was how we wanted it. But we're going to have more details to share this with you. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Hi, Paul Mellon from Team Toyota. With the season finally changing, things in the car market are pretty much the same. You can wait for months to find a new car, or don't wait at all. With over 100 certified Toyotas in stock with low mileage and great warranties, you can drive one home today. Plus, get free maintenance and roadside assistance for 1 year. Or choose a budget-friendly used car that meets your financial and lifestyle needs. So start the season in your new used car at Team Toyota. Just visit teamtoyota.net.
Payroll Service Solutions was established in 2001 to cater to the payroll needs of small to medium-sized businesses. Payroll Service Solutions offers unparalleled customer service while they deliver a complete and accurate payroll. When calling Payroll Service Solutions, you will never be put into a voicemail or go through a series of prompts to get to a person. All customer service representatives are extensively trained to handle all of your payroll needs, therefore saving you time. They value each and every one of their clients. No account is too small. Call Payroll Service Solutions today at 1-866-PAY-EASY for a no-obligation review of your payroll needs. That number again is 1-866-PAYEASY. Payroll Service Solutions.
At Independence Blue Cross, we believe in giving you the tools you need to pursue your healthiest life. From premiums as low as $0 per month to health discounts and cash rewards, it pays to have coverage with Independence. With the strongest network of doctors and hospitals in the region and free 24/7 virtual doctor visits, you can feel confident that quality care is always within reach. Explore your coverage options and enroll today at ibx.com.
Hopefully you're still there hanging in. You grab your coffee or whatever entertainment piece to keep you right at the edge of your feet here, because this story is just incredible. An exact one, the science of it and the studying of it. So let's get back into the digging and what was revealed.
So we're on the site and we are digging in this hole deeper than any of the other holes. And in fact, by the time we were finished, Tom, digging into this one particular hole, it was 12 feet deep. 12 feet deep.
Oh my God.
You take the room, take a normal ceiling and add half of that back onto it, and that's how deep you were at the bottom of this.
And was this all dirt
pit.
or was it stone as well?
Well, as we now know, Carlos DiNardo used a backhoe. He knew how to operate a backhoe. So it was dirt, stone, concrete pieces. There was all kind of concrete pieces here that were broken up from, I'm not really sure what else, but he used all of that to bury these boys. And what we saw first was a sneaker. And that sneaker and fresh grass buried under the earth. So the only way you see fresh grass buried under the earth is if it had been recently buried. Otherwise, it just turns into compost.
Sure. And
that sneaker, of course, that was part of what we were looking for, what the boys would have had on. And then once we saw the sneaker, we saw this, what has now been called a pig roaster, but what we saw was an old oil tank. And once we hit that oil tank or got to the oil tank, everything had to stop.
Sure.
Because now there's a concern it's hazardous material or could be combustible. If you strike an oil tank that has gas or oil in it, it can blow up.
Anything could occur. Sure.
So we want to keep digging now more than ever because we know we're onto something, and we have to stop. They have to bring in the engineers. They have to certify it, say we can keep going. And then the hole got so deep that the engineers were afraid there was going to be a cave-in because we had people in the holes. As I said, you could dig a little bit with the machinery, but then you had to get in and start digging with shovels. And then when you got to something, you had to start digging with little hand trowels.
Oh my God!
Little hand trowels.
Yeah.
So people had to be in these holes. So we had to construct this hole. People had to be on planks and laying on their bellies in this 90, 100 degree heat. It was biblical, Tom, the heat. And then I remember, and this was not till maybe Thursday, then all of a sudden the heavens opened up and the rain poured like I had never seen in my life. It was biblical. It's the best way I can describe it, creating all this mudslides and it was
God.
So challenging. But these guys and women of law enforcement persevered. So what ended up happening is we were able to extricate the tank, and we found first Dean Finicaro. And then underneath there was Mark Sturgis and Tommy Mayo. We found 3 of the boys.
Wow.
And then there's this process where I know who they are, but you can't confirm it until the coroner gets there, and you got to get some proof. So we were able to use this modern technology, this rapid hits DNA. Ben Salem had a rapid hits DNA machine, and we were able to take samples from the boys that we found and match them to like their toothbrushes or something that their families provided. And so finally, Wednesday, I canceled one of the press conferences because things were developing so quickly. And I said, but stay tuned when we can today, because I wanted to be able to identify at least one of the boys. So it couldn't have been more, and not deliberately, but more dramatic. It could not have been more dramatic. So we identified Dean. We then decide to drive to Dean's house because his family had decamped for the night, because usually we would stop at night, and tell them we found Dean, but he was dead.
Yes.
So I had to make that notification and then go back to where we were having the press conferences, and I had a press conference at midnight to announce that we had located one of the boys and that there were other human remains in this hole, and we were going to keep going. That was surreal.
Oh my God.
We show up at this, it was at a different location. It was at the Logan Square Shopping Center, which is all the way up 202 in Solebury. And they had set up an area for me, and I'm coming right from the notification. I appear with my people, and you always got to have good people with you. It helps you. It's comforting, it's strengthening. And they're arrayed with me, the police chiefs of all the boys that were involved. And I walk down this long corridor, outdoor corridor, to where I see the microphone. And as I get out there, it's like it's daylight. And there had to be 30 cameras. There had to be 100 people there, because just people from the public, who wanted to see and hear this.
Sure.
So we were able to give at least some positive news, not good news, but positive news. And then I remember I've left out a very important half of this component, which is what's happening with Carlos DiNardo. So all the while, my jobs are to make sure that things are going smoothly, but I had amazing help in generals. The police generals were doing an incredible job. I call them generals, but they were the guys that were making sure that everything was going smoothly.
Sure.
And in the meantime, we're working on the legal side of things, trying to figure out, we're really vectoring in on Carlos DiNardo, and the public is clamoring. And everybody wants to know, does this have to do with this other thing that happened at Temple University? So I'm dispelling that rumor, naming some other guy, and then they all want to implicate Carlos DiNardo, but you have to do things in order.
In proper steps, yeah.
Yes. But we know he is really, really a person of interest. And so I start to release that. We first lock him up on an old charge that had been dismissed at a preliminary hearing improperly, in my opinion. It's a $200,000 bail, because I wanted him in custody, because I think this guy's dangerous. And so we can continue the investigation.
Sure.
He immediately makes bail. His family is of substantial means. He immediately makes bail. So then we're brainstorming. And
who was the judge, by the way?
Judge Gallagher.
Okay. Just was wondering, curious.
Yeah, but he's a good judge. He's a good judge. I think he got a little bamboozled by the defense attorney. Is what I think
they didn't set bail at a high enough number, I guess, right?
Oh well. So interesting you say that. So it was a serious but minor charge, and it was a pretty high bail for that charge.
Was it? Okay.
Yes, I will give credit for that.
Yeah.
But we didn't know how substantially wealthy this family was. So he posts it. And then we're thinking, we don't have enough to charge him with the murder, but we want to put him in custody.
Yes.
So brainstorm. One of the, as I told you before, the license plate readers hit on Tommy Mayo's car. And because of Megan Freer's great investigation, it led to a garage in Solebury off of Aquatong Road, not in this big compound, but a little aside. And sure enough, in that garage, Tommy Mayo's car's in there. And his ownership papers are in there, but Tommy's nowhere to be found.
Nowhere to be found.
So we're like, what can we do with this? And as we find out, Tommy was a diabetic. He could not live without his insulin and his insulin kit, which was left behind.
Wow. What a great piece of evidence there.
So I say, we're going to be creative here. You need probable cause, as you know.
Do. Yep.
Write it up. We're going to charge Cosmo DiNardo with stealing his car. Because Cosmo DiNardo, we had him on a text or a phone call or witness saying he was trying to sell Tommy Mayo's car to this third party.
Right.
Now, sometimes you can say, hey, I have permission to sell somebody else's car. You
exactly.
know that.
Power of attorney, all that neat stuff.
But here, what we relied on is Tommy Mayo is nowhere to be found, and he is presumptively dead because he can't live without his insulin
kit. Oh, God.
Put that charge on him. $5 million bail.
Nice.
We explained to the judge, this guy's a person of interest in 4 homicides, presumptively.
Sure.
So then he goes to jail, and I am begging, pleading, cajoling with his representative, his attorney, DiNardo's attorney, please just tell us where the boys are. You don't have to tell us anything else. You don't have to implicate your client. Please let me bring these boys home to their family. No luck, till finally, Wednesday night, this attorney, who I'm very good friends with, Michael Parlow, I'm still dear friends with him, he says, you mind if this other attorney gets involved? I'm going to stay involved, but can he get involved? I said, of course.
Sure.
If it's going to help. I believe in the power of positive momentum.
That's most important.
So I end up talking to this attorney at night, Fred Perry, a very well-known, well-respected attorney from Philadelphia.
Yeah, I know Fred. Yeah.
I've been doing it a long time. And he says to me, remember, I'm not elected yet, and I'm under tremendous pressure. That night, he says, hey, I know you're bringing Cosmo DiNardo in tomorrow for super secret proceeding, which I'm not, you I'm sure can guess what I'm talking about, maybe.
Yes.
But I'm not allowed to comment on. And is there any way that we can resolve this? I said, what do you got in mind? He says, well, I understand this is going to be gravely serious if you put this on him. Are you willing to forego the death penalty if he'll tell you what happened? And I thought about it for about 5 seconds, and I said, yes. I said, I know I will be judged for this, but my priority right now is getting those boys home to their families.
Yeah.
I said, yes. So the next day, we didn't know that this was going to happen, but this was Fred Perry's idea, and now he had a partner in it. So we the next day in my office, the defendant DiNardo, who has now been charged with the stolen car, is in custody. He's there. We're there. My detectives, the defense attorneys are there. And I sat across from Fred Perry. I'm over this end in my office, and he's down there. And Fred says to me, Cosmo can give you what he did, where the boys are, where the guns are, and who else was involved. Are you willing to negotiate this case down from, I understand no death penalty, but even further, down to like a term of years? I said, Fred, we've been doing this since Sunday. One day we found one of the boys. We're still digging. We locked your guy up for a gun charge. The next day we found 2 more bodies, presumptively 2 more of the boys.
Sure.
We're still digging. We locked your guy up for the stolen car. You have 1 card to play. You can bargain for your client's life. That's it. This case is going forward. And he went and talked with him. He said, okay, he'll do it. And he told us what he did, where he buried the boys, where the guns were, and that his cousin also was involved.
Wow.
And this is why this is so critical, and I will never regret it. If you remember the chronology of things, Tom, we found, as it turns out, in this 12-foot common grave, 3 of the boys.
Wow.
but not Jimmy Patrick. Jimmy was not buried there. Cosmo told us, DiNardo told us, that Jimmy was his first victim, and that he had killed Jimmy 2 days prior.
Wow.
2 days prior in a different setting, and buried him in a different setting. Well, as DiNardo was telling us this on this video live, our detectives are texting people at the scene, go run out to this location,
sure,
bring the dog,
exactly,
the cadaver dog, and confirm it a hit. So we knew he was telling us the truth.
Wow. Can we wrap this up? I just want to take another quick, short station break for our sponsors. This is like the ultimate, coming to the climax at the very end. And you're listening to our Bucks County District Attorney, Justice for All, Matt Weintraub. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back to finish this one up.
Hi, Paul Muller from Team Toyota. With the season finally changing, things in the car market are pretty much the same. You can wait for months to find a new car, or don't wait at all. With over 100 certified Toyotas in stock with low mileage and great warranties, you can drive one home today. Plus, get free maintenance and roadside assistance for 1 year. Or choose a budget-friendly used car that meets your financial and lifestyle needs. So start the season in your new used car at Team Toyota. Just visit teamtoyota.net.
Are you curious what old antiques, collectibles, or household contents are worth? Listen Friday mornings for What's It Worth with Mike the Appraiser, right here on 1490 WBCB.
Puss in Boots Tavern and Take, located on Trent Road in Fairless Hills, is your hometown spot, open daily for lunch and dinner with spacious indoor and heated outdoor dining. During football season, call 215-295-8236 to place your order, or visit on Facebook at pussandbootstavern.com. Puss in Boots is following CDC guidelines, keeping you, our #1 fan, safe. Puss in Boots is open with a new menu, and it's good! WBCB is now on your FM dial at 107.3. Serving Bucks, Burlington, and Mercer counties since 1958, you can now listen to all of your BCB favorites crystal clear on 107.3 FM. A new age for WBCB on a new frequency, 107.3.
We're back here with Matt Weintraub, and obviously we're under the gun with time and so much good information to share, but let's get right back to it, Matt, about the other body that remained.
Yeah, people have a right to hear the whole story,
yes.
So I'm going to really stay focused. So DiNardo tells us where Jimmy is buried, and we quickly check and confirm it through the use of these cadaver dogs. We race out to that area, and I can tell you, this is my opinion, but then after DiNardo confesses, I then go out to the scene at some point where they're now excavating Jimmy. They've now brought out Dean and Mark and Tommy from this common grave, and Jimmy is so far away from them that I have to be driven there on an ATV. It was he was buried on the side of a mountain. It was so far away, I got sick to my stomach on the ride. And I described two parts of this property. The first part was this like farm field at the very front of the property that fronts 202. And then you ride down this driveway, and at the end of the road literally is this compound. But after that, it was just wild and vast, beautiful wilderness. And that's where Jimmy was buried. I guess it's possible, but I have no idea on earth how we would have found him. And so I was grateful that I made this deal. And I have to say, it was not without consultation and agitation and from the victims' families. Because remember, we got these 4 families keeping this round-the-clock vigil. So we met with them, and I explained to them my reasoning and why I wanted to do this deal. And I had told DiNardo's people, this deal is contingent upon the victim, but I'll talk to the victims because ultimately I make that choice.
Yes.
But I want them to be on board, of course, if I can. So we talked to them, and they understood now that they had a real chance to get all their boys back. So they said, they blessed it, and they said yes. And I was going to do it. I'm telling you, I was going to do it anyway, but it's always better to have their blessing.
Their support, sure.
Yeah, and
absolutely.
it's not a bait and switch. I decide this. This is why I'm elected.
Of course.
Not yet then. But
yes.
why I was appointed. So then what happens is his confession is very graphic. And of course it's terrible. I mean, what he did to these boys is terrible.
Yeah.
So that starts leaking out through the media. We had a leak. I don't know who it is, but I suspect I know who it is. We had a leak. And what happens in now in life is everything is learned about by the public in real time. So I cannot get to the families quick enough. By the time I sometimes would go from the top of the hill to the bottom of the hill to tell them something, they already knew or heard a rumor on Twitter or Facebook or some social media. Some was true, some was exaggerated, some was completely untrue. But we needed to try to control that release of information. That's why I was doing the twice regular press conferences. So what ends up happening is, with their blessing, we make this agreement. Then they hear all these terrible, terrible things about what happened to their boys, and they revoke their support for the deal.
They want to hang. They want to hang them.
Of course. So by this point, we've recovered all 4 boys. We get confirmation. Jimmy was the last one. We get confirmation that it's Jimmy. And that Friday, you got to think about this. We're getting no sleep for a week straight.
Sure.
This is going on in real time. And people are watching it in real time, which is the craziest part, because I'm living it. As an aside, people were telling me, we were coming home from the beach to watch this at 11 o'clock, at 3 o'clock. It really captivated people.
I'll bet it has.
And the news helicopters were constantly circling us. If you remember, we had these tents set up so we could excavate in relative privacy and peace.
Sure.
But so what then happens is we draw up the charges, and as DiNardo had told us, his cousin was also involved, and there were these guns out there. So we spent all of Thursday night trying to locate the cousin, Kratz, and the guns, and we were successful. And so the next day is Friday, and I have to make 2 more death notifications, which just takes a little piece out of you.
Sure.
You probably have done it.
Yeah.
Takes a little piece out of you every time. And I have to announce the charges, and I have to have this conversation with the families who now want this guy strung up.
Right.
And I understand it.
Yeah.
So we get back into we have a library conference room in my office, and I meet with all the families, and I say to them, I understand what you've heard is horrible, and I understand why you are out for blood. I understand it. I mean, I can't put myself in your place. I said, but if you recall, and these families had grown very close with each other. If you recall, at the time, because this is all unfolding in real time, at the time that I made this agreement and spoke to you about it, before we actually accepted it, we had found 3 of your boys. I need you all to think about this as though it's that time, and Rich and Sharon Patrick don't have their son back yet. If you think about it like that.
Brilliant. That was a brilliant way to explain it.
And the atmosphere in the room completely changed. Completely. And everybody you could see, they're all standing. These people are the loveliest, sweetest people you have ever met in your life. They adopted their grandson, for crying out loud. And everybody came back. They all came back. And so it was a crisis averted. But it was very important to me to have them united with me. Not necessary, but very critical and important. And so then we were able to make the announcement that we found all 4 boys. We found the weapons. We arrested the 2 people responsible. And we actually made an agreement with Cosmo DiNardo, who served 4 life sentences consecutive to each other. So he will never be eligible for parole
again.
And then there's one little quick side story to this, and I know we got to talk about Jen Shorn real fast.
Yeah.
Sean Kratz was the co-defendant for some inexplicable reason, and I don't understand it, but I have to own it. Our agreement with Cosmo DiNardo was in writing. The agreement with Sean Kratz was not in writing. So he ended up reneging on his agreement, and he wanted to go to trial. He went to trial. We ended up convicting him, and then he was eligible in a strange irony because he reneged. He was eligible for the death penalty, even though and I'm not minimizing this, but he himself actually was the one that shot and killed Dean. And DiNardo shot and killed all four, but Kratz is the one that shot and killed Dean.
Sure.
So then Kratz wanted to go forward with the penalty phase. And I remember talking with the families again and saying, you know what? He wants to be infamous. He wants to be a martyr. He wants to have the federal defenders. He wants to be a cause celeb.
Sure.
Let's not give him not one win. Let's take that from him too. And we did. The families agreed. As it turns out, it ended up being the Finnicaros because that's what he was eligible for the death penalty for. And they agreed. So we, without him wanting this, said, we're going to allow him to be sentenced to life in prison, no parole, and then consecutive for the other two boys.
Yes.
No, he had nothing to do with Jimmy's death. And we took that from him, too. And so he's serving a life sentence, too.
No, that's true. And no chance of parole.
No chance.
What a remarkable story, Matt.
It was profound. I hope to never have to go through that again.
No. Let's hope that the county, any person will have to go through that type of a situation again. But what an experience, and just outstanding work, forensic work, investigative work with your team.
It was incredible. 200 law enforcement officers from the federal to the state to the county to the local.
Wow.
From people with 40 years experience down to Montgomery County police cadets that were in the academy the second day.
Second day, my God, what an experience for them.
Incredible.
Incredible experience. Well, as we move into 2023, Matt, we'll have your first assistant, District Attorney Jen Shorn. It's going to be coming in, sitting in from time to time, which will be fantastic. Let's hear a little bit. What do you have? Just a few minutes, a couple minutes. Just a short bio on Jen. I met her. She's a fantastic woman.
See, if you recall, that was probably one of our best shows ever.
Yes.
Jen is a warrior.
Yes.
Jen has been a prosecutor, I think, I'm going to guess about 25 years.
Wow.
And where there is an old, cold case where all hope has been lost, Jen somehow has this way of breathing life into these old cases and giving people hope and resuscitating these old investigations. And in, at least off of my count, 4, maybe even 5 of these old investigations has reclaimed justice.
Wow.
for these victims, these forgotten victims. And what it says to me is no victim is ever forgotten.
That's true.
Here in Bucks County.
That's true.
Especially as long as Jen Shorn is on the case.
Right.
Jen leads from the front. She is a warrior, and people in my office will follow her anywhere.
We're looking forward to it.
Yeah, you will find her to be a very, very engaging
That's great.
co-host.
And we'll still have you come in from time to time, obviously.
Of course.
But we're really excited about Jen being here. We just have about a minute left. I want to wish everyone a very happy holiday and Happy New Year once again. On behalf of Paul Muller here, our sponsor at Team Toyota, myself, Tom Mellon, the host for this show, my very good friend, Matt Weintraub, who just continues to do a remarkable job as the district attorney here in Bucks County. And Matt, a few words you would like to share with our listenership?
I've really enjoyed spending a couple hours with you.
Yes.
And it's really my privilege to make sure that people not only are safe, we tell them they are safe, but they deserve to feel safe. And it's been my privilege to serve. I will continue to serve, not so much up front like this,
right.
But you haven't heard the last of me. I guarantee you that.
Absolutely. He'll still be hanging around. He's very active in the community, Bucks County Tour of Honor and many other charitable organizations. Once again, be safe. Have a great holiday out there. Continue to be vigilant to help your neighbors, yourselves. Stay well. Don't text while you drive. Happy holidays again. And most importantly, God bless America.